Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mikestand. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. I gotta do that. Anyways. Okay, so as we wait for more people, I'm gonna go take care of something real quick. I'll be right back, but I will leave you with some. Oh, hey, Tim. Hey, Tim. Hi, mouth did not move. Am I high? No, it's just that the reason you heard an echo there is because of what happened like last week. I just make sure that the YouTube is actually going through. I don't think. No, you're not high, Tim. Oh, hi, Mike. Hey, Tim. Anyways, and thank you for the like and the share, of course. Um, all right. So, anyways, I'm gonna go take care of something real quick here, Tim. So if you'll stick around, I'll probably get the show started here in a moment. Just gonna go do something real quick. But feel free, of course, to share your link if you'd like. I'll just be right back when I'll put some music on while I'm gone, and I'll be back in one moment. All right, I'm back. Wonder what's going on. All right, there we go. All righty then. Hey, Shadowhawk. Yo, Mike in the chat. Hey, Shadowhawk. All right, well, we got some people here now, so I might as well go over what's going on tonight. So we're gonna go over 5 articles, all from Bounding in the Comics. Yeah, Timmy. So among those articles will include that an former IGN writer claims outlet told reviewers they were quote unquote not really allowed to give bad scores to comic books. We got kind of a follow up to the Mike Barron situation. As the lawsuit, well, we all kind of knew this already. That was going forward. Let's see what else we got. As I said, we got 5 stories here. Let's see. Uh, oh, so apparently the publishing company Newsarama, their co-founder left, and a former editor is warning that um, your favorite outlets and reporters could be gone tomorrow. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but we'll find out. Also, we got some more news on, of course, the Proud family and on the Proud family. Stephen Bloom, a longtime, well-known anime dub voice actor, has come out and endorsed Proud Family. We'll talk a bit about that. We will also talk about. We'll also, have some Velma news. Aside from the fact, of course, that they actually have said that it's now official, apparently, that Velma is getting, despite the fact that it's a trash fire, it is getting a second season. So that plus the wrestling wrap up and and this day in each history. So with all that, why don't we go ahead and get started with the articles here. So I'll pull that up. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. There we go, right there. Alrighty there. Okay. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and get to this. Okay. And look at that! Look at that cavalcade. You got She-Hulk. You got Rogue. I think it's supposed to be Phoenix right there. Let's see, Captain Marvel. A lot of this is. Let's see, Spider Woman. There's the Phoenix over there. I don't know who that one, and that could be another version of Spider Woman. The Jessica, not the Jessica Jones, the Jennifer Carpenter one. Iron Man. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. Let's see. All right. Former IGN writer claims outlet told reviewers they were, in quote unquote, not really allowed to give bad scores to comic books. Article by Spencer McCauley, published this past Friday the 10th. Okay, so here's what's going on here. In yet another apparent confirmation that the mainstream, in smaller quotes, geek media is in bed with the very companies they cover. A former IGN staffer has claimed that during his tenure with the site, he and his colleagues were, quote unquote, not really allowed to leave negative reviews on comic books. This supposed lack of ethics was leveled on February 6th by freelance journalist Trey Dean, who reviewed comic books for IGN from April 2014 to May 2015. A little over a year there then. In response to a tweet about the outlet's recent Hogwarts Legacy review, taking note of the dissonance between reviewer Travis Northup's criticism of everything, from how the game is, quote, cursed with a lack of energy and lack of enemy variety, unquote, and, quote, suffered from just about every issue that makes IGN's performance review team cry. Okay, with his final score of 9 out of 10. Twitter user at Epistemophagy opined, quote, IGN's review of Hogwarts Legacy is very weird because it reads like they wanted to give it a bad review but weren't allowed to. And I think I have seen some reports on this as well. Um, let's see if anybody's adding anything up. Nope, not yet. Okay. Jumping off from at Epistemophages' observation, Dean then alleged, quote, video games aren't really my lane. But when I was reviewing comics for IGN about 10 years ago, we were in fact not really allowed to give bad reviews, unquote. A study of IGN's archives prove that there may in fact be some truth to Dean's words. On one hand, contrary to the former staffer's recollection during his tenure, IGN allowed a number of its reviewers to give books poor scores, including DC's World's Finest, Volume 1, Number 22, Marvel's Ultimate FF or Fantastic Four, Volume 1, Number 1, and DC's Futures End Grayson, Volume 1, Number 1. The last even written by Dean himself. On the other, the frequency of these negative reviews were just as wishy-washy as Dean's quote-unquote not really allowed description of the situation, with roughly 2 such bad scores being posted per week. For example, for the week of September 24th, 2014, Catwoman, Futures End, Volume 1, Number 1, and IDW's G.I. Joe, Volume 4, Number 1, tied for last with an even 5 out of 10 each. On January 21st, 2015, the losers were DC's The New 52, Futures End, Volume 1, Number 38, and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, Number 23, both of which failed to reach even a 5 out of 10. Okay. In further support of Dean's account, it was not uncommon for certain books of questionable quality to receive questionably high praise, consisting of a 3-page fight between the titular team and a random shark, followed by 16 pages of setup and forced melodrama involving America Chavez, Marvel's Secret Wars event tie-in issue A-Force, Volume 1, Number 01, earned an 8.4 out of 10 with reviewer Jesse Shadeen praising, quote, while certain details regarding the nature of this team and their connection to the old Marvel Universe remain unclear, A-Force Number 1 marks a worthy debut for Marvel's newest team book, unquote. So basically, I guess they're saying that they kind of had to kiss the corporate rims, I guess is what he's getting at. But they're pointing out here there wasn't a whole lot of evidence of that, or a lot of the evidence is more um, wishy-washy, I guess. Yo, Shadow, what is that? Despite being widely panned by fans and critics alike for its bastardization of the Zarnian bounty hunter, October 2nd, 2014's Lobo, Volume 3, Number 1, still managed to snag relatively respectable 6.8 out of 10 from IGN's Jeff Lake. Quote, while Lobo proves he can hold his own, Cullen Bunn still has some kinks to work out, unquote. He meekly summarized of the issue. I guess here's what they were talking about here. Ah, Lobo's severed head. That can't be good. That can't be a nice vision to have in your head. However, what lends Dean's claims the most credence is the admitted fact that the media frequently plays nice, in smaller quotes, with giant media corporations in order to maintain access to their products. As explained by Sci-Fi Wire editor Danny Roth during an appearance on the site's Who Won the Week podcast, quote, here's the actual reality. Here's where, oh yeah, I think I heard about this too. Um, Here's the actual reality. Here's where we actually are in the industry. You want to talk about, quote, access media. Every single person that wants to have access to things early, that wants to get access to things so that traffic is drawn to their site, will on occasion, everybody at this podcast, everybody in our industry occasionally has to play softball. Occasionally has to look the other way a little bit. Yeah, and I do kind of remember Yellow Flash talking about this a little bit too. I do remember him talking about it, and Dara Dark, I believe. Quote, everybody has to do it, unquote, he continued. Quote, in the sense that, quote, in smaller quotes, I hated a movie, but I won't say that I hated a movie, in smaller quote, or an actor behaved a sort of way, and you don't want to put it out there that happened, unquote, met with the agreeing assertion, quote, right, because you might not get the next review, unquote, from his fellow Sci-Fi Wire editor, Karama Horn. Roth went on to conclude, to some degree, everybody in our industry that is part of this quote unquote, in smaller quotes, um, access media, has to decide which battles they want to pick, which of the ones where, in smaller quotes, my voice is the one that has to get said, unquote. Yeah, I do remember Yellow Flash going over that interview a bit. So there we go. There's that article. If you guys haven't already, of course, if you guys can like and share the stream and see if we can get some more friendly people in here, that would really help. Also, anything here grabs your attention, feel free to chime in and comment. And if you have any questions, of course, I will do my best to answer those questions to the best of my ability. So, all right, so here's the next article we're going to do. Right here. Hey, Mighty Geek. Hey, Terry. Let's see. Oh, actually, let's see. Shortly after all the characters will be gay, Marvel presents Pole Smoker #1. Oh, God. Tim. All right. So, anyways, yeah. Well, let me just do something real quick. Hopefully, we can remind somebody. As I said, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people. Yeah, that'd be appreciated. And feel free to comment or ask questions. I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. All right. So, anyways, let's see. Oh, and Terry, you just how are you going to ruin Blade? Hmm. Well, they probably will find a way, Terry. Ah. All right. So, far left effort to cancel Mike Barron's Private American backfires. Planned lawsuit against Daily Cost to go forward. Article by Paul Hare published this past Friday in the comic books interviews section here. In November, Mike Barron and his team of artists launched a crowdfunding campaign for Private American, a graphic novel about a vigilante taking the fight to America's open border. Soon after, far left activists tried canceling the book. They failed, and Private American is moving forward. Now, Barron is laying the groundwork to bring a lawsuit against the involved parties. He provided Bounding into Comics with the latest on the story. And here the guy Richard Bonk did cover A for it. Steve Rude did the cover B, and cover C by Dan Lawless. Okay, so quote, I wanted to write a Punisher type story, unquote, Barron said in explaining how he conceptualized Private American. Quote, what would the Punisher be doing if I were writing him today? He would be down on the southern border stopping human traffickers, the river of fentanyl, and terrorists from entering the country. He most specifically does not target migrants seeking a better life. He saves them, unquote. The story isn't shocking, and Barron noted that the outrage directed at it is a product of our age. Quote, 20 or even 10 years ago, this would not have been controversial. But today, where the left has infiltrated most institutions, it was like waving a red flag in front of a bull. Out of nowhere, the Daily Cost attacked, accusing me of quote unquote stochastic terrorism. Now, mind you, the reason that the left want open borders is so they can increase their power. They can eat away at traditional American values and make and basically they want to bring apartheid to the United States. The left want to bring apartheid to the United States, and we cannot let them do that. Um, Anyways, as we continue on here, but that wasn't all. Quote, the person who wrote this article has her own comic funding on Kickstarter, and she called for her sock puppets to write Kickstarter and get mine booted, unquote. He continued, quote, she succeeded. Every word in the article is a lie. You can read about it at Bleeding Fool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of again that's where the torturous interference would come in. Um, Despite that setback, it wasn't the end. Barron and his team were able to keep the crowdfunding going on Indiegogo and Crowdfunder. Quote, I've been a writer my whole life. Job one is to entertain. Private American grabs you by the throat on the first panel and never lets go. No lectures or bumper stickers. I only wish to be left alone to create entertaining stories, unquote, he said. Well, that's because one of the things that this writer, Steve Mignon, accused the comic of being was like a terrorist manual for dummies. You guys remember those books, right? You know, um, writing papers for dummies, creating, building tree houses for dummies. You remember those books, right? Well, basically, this is supposedly a terrorist manual for dummies. That's what this writer streaming beyond daily costs. They were basically saying it was, and it wasn't. Sure, everybody's got their own idea on how they would act upon certain impulses like that, so they don't necessarily need anyone's help to suggest what to do. Anyways, however, okay, quote, however, in calling me a terrorist and racist and deliberately misrepresenting my work, the Daily Cost has left me no choice. My previous graphic novel, Thin Blue Line, was about two police trying to survive a night of rioting. The Daily Cost described it as about, quote, in smaller quotes, gangs of white police officers going into black communities to kill black people. Mm-hmm. Quote, the two protagonists don't kill anyone in the book. The person who wrote this has never read it. We contacted the Daily Cost and asked if they would like to see the book. They reluctantly agreed. My publisher made it available to them as a PDF. That was over a month ago. As of today, they have not looked at it. Unquote. Folks, help me fight the Borg. uh, Let's check in something real quick. I didn't get any reply back from Margaret. Okay. Alright, anyways, back to the article here. Before I do that. Alright. On January 10th, a GoFundMe campaign launched to raise money for legal support for Barron, with the copy stating, quote, we're raising money to pay for writer Mike Barron's legal fees to fund a lawsuit against the Daily Cost website, their writer, and other parties for publishing malicious lies about his two most recent graphic novels, Thin Blue Line and Private American, unquote. By January 27th, the campaign reached its target. Quote, we've hit our goal. Well, we've hit out goal, or I think that's supposed to be our. That was a typo. And will now proceed to retain our legal representation for the battle ahead, unquote. The campaign remains active, and those wishing to contribute to it can still do so at the GoFundMe page. Quote, I tell heterodox stories, unquote, Barron said in conclusion. Quote, there's an enormous appetite for them, as woke has infected most establishment projects. My next project is a supernatural western, Bronze Star, and after that, it's Florida Man graphic novel number 2. Its only purpose is to make you laugh, unquote. So there we go with that one. That seems to be the end of that article. Some of this we pretty much knew about. I think RJ did mention a lot of stuff already. So, if we can move on to the next article here. All right. All right. So, Newsarama. So, after Newsarama co-founder exits publication, former editor warns, quote, your favorite outlets and reporters could be gone tomorrow, unquote. Spencer Bakuli published February 13th, which was yesterday in the comic book then. Wonder what that's all about. Let's take a look at this. So, after spending nearly 30 years operating one incarnation or another of the well-known comic book news outlet Newsarama, co-founder Michael Doran has officially and completely exited the outlet. Doran's exit was first reported by pop culture news outlet Popverse, who, upon sending him a message on or around February 2nd, discovered that, quote, any email sent to his Games Raider Plus email address, unquote, provided by the company who currently owns and operates the comic book news site as a subsidiary brand, quote, prompts an auto response that reads in smaller quotes, I am no longer at Newsarama. Okay. In light of his no longer being associated with the outlet, Doran's auto response concludes by asking anyone attempting to reach him to instead contact either Newsarama writer George Marston or Games Raider Plus U.S. Managing Editor Roland Bishop. It should be noted that, given both Doran's departure and the fact that Bishop is officially considered a Games Raider Plus employee, Marston is now the only employee currently working for the company under the Newsarama name. Have you guys ever saying anything? The main character in Private American is a Cuban American. Yeah, I believe the name of the protagonist is Marco Sanchez, who was supposedly dishonorably, as I recall from the trailers, he was dishonorably discharged for basically not allowing his other soldiers to beat down somebody. You know, um, Duran began his career reporting on the goings on and happenings of the Western comic book industry with an independent roaming internet column, publishing news and rumors on multiple forums such as Prodigy and Usenet throughout the mid 90s. He would soon be joined in his endeavor by a variety of writers, most notably Matt Brady, with whom he would eventually partner with in the late 90s to found the Newsarama brand proper. And here's a panel from the X-Men here. Like this looks like it's a panel from from a comic that was based on the 90s X-Men cartoon. X-Men stand together in X-Men Volume 2, Number 1, the X-Men versus X-Men. Again. Okay. The two would go on to launch Newsarama's own independent website in 2002, which was 21 years ago. Thanks to a significant investment of funds and support from filmmaker Kevin Smith and his ViewAskew.com network. Surprisingly, Doran would temporarily leave the company just 3 months after, accepting an offer to work for Marvel Comics as their communications director. However, this brief absence would be just that, as he would shortly return to once again help helm his creation. Business would continue as usual for the next few years until 2007, at which point Newsarama went independent from the ViewAskew.com network and was shortly thereafter purchased by the Imaginova Media Corporation. 2 years after this development, Brady would step down from the site leaving it in the hands of Duran and fellow contributor turned emergency editor Lucas Siegel. A lot of a lot of movement here, huh? See if you guys are saying anything more. All right, so a few months later, Newsarama would be sold to fellow media corporation Top 10 Reviews, now Perch Group, who would hold the site as an asset for a further 9 years before changing ownership once again and um, coming under possession of Future US in 2018. Then in 2020, Future US announced that it would be folding Newsarama under their Game Raider Plus outlet, where it has operated ever since. Quite a journey for that company, huh? Responding to the news via his personal Twitter account, former Newsarama writer and current Popverse editor-in-chief Chris Arendt um, implored, quote, "Now would be a good time to note if there's comic journalism you like, you should support it financially," unquote. Quote, "If they offer memberships or take donations, do so," unquote, he added. Quote, "If they take ads, buy ads, or encourage your company to, if you wait for perfect, you will be waiting a long time," unquote. Quote, "Journalism, like justice, is never perfect," unquote, declared the writer. Quote, "But consider where we would be without it," unquote. Let's see. Mike Barron ripped stories straight from the headlines. Yeah, he does. I think that he did mention that with those two latest books of his, Thin Blue Line and Private American. I think he outright said that he took those from current events, basically. So, um, going on to recommend a number of outlets that readers could support, including Comics Beat, Comic Book Herald, and Women Write About Comics. Arendt continued, quote, "When the next really good or really bad situation happens in comics, what resources do you want to be able to help research, corroborate, explain, diffuse, and or highlight what's really happening," unquote. But we have all lost um, comic inks, journalism outlets, unquote, he said. Quote, "They could have made it longer had we supported it more. Your favorite outlets and reporters could be gone tomorrow if it becomes financially, physically, or emotionally unfeasible for them." Yeah, well, I mean, you see it in the manga industry because you guys know that I've reported on a few occasions where there are some manga creators who have had such significant health issues that it's caused delays in their work, and their work's been dragged out because of it. The likes of Kohei Horikoshi. Can't remember the other. There's another guy had some serious hip problems. The guy I think who wrote don't know if My Hero Academia or not, but let's see. However, it seems Arendt's concern for audiences being informed about the industry only extends to ensuring that click like outlets maintain authority rather than actually providing readers with the news, as he concluded his thoughts by warning his readers, quote, if you get your comic news exclusively through social media, ask yourself if you trust the source inside that social media, unquote. Quote, think about any biases that might be present, especially with direct sources, unquote. He said, failing to see how this same standard should be rigorously applied, if not more so, to entire outlets. As of writing, Duran has not publicly commented on the reasons of his departure. And there we go with that one. Um, yeah, so, all right. So, anyways, I do need to step away for a moment here. I'll be putting some music on here in a moment. I'll set the next article up here. Um, but while I'm gone, I'm going to go ahead and put some music on here while I'm gone to entertain you guys. For those of you in there, if you have a wrench, feel free to share your links to your site. John, I'll be back. All right, I'm back. Um, we already caught that. Let's see now. All right. So with that, let's go ahead continue on with the articles here. This next one, now getting into some more cartoon animated related stuff here. Man, look at Penny Proud right there, looking so angry. Who wants to see an angry 12, 13 year old? I don't think none of us really do. And the reason for her anger is stupid. Okay. And then you have Spike Spiegel on the right there, and we're about to find out why Spike Spiegel is next to Penny Proud. Prolific voice actor Steve Bloom, who provides Spike's English voice in Cowboy Bebop, endorses the Proud family louder and prouder. Reparations call says, quote, anti-woke rhetoric is dangerous and divisive. No, it's actually the other way around. It's the woke rhetoric that's dangerous and divisive there, Steve. Article by Spencer McCooley published today. Though it may have been written off by most as anything from shameless activism to outright propaganda, the recent call for slavery reparations by Disney's The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, has been answered by at least one individual, voice actor Steve Bloom. And just again to remind people, Steve Bloom has provided the English voice for a number of animes, including lending his voice to being Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop, Roger Smith in Big O, a number of characters in Naruto, including Orochimaru, the third Tsuchikage. So just to give you guys kind of an idea of who the guy is. Let's see. Anyways, the moment in question occurs at the climax of the 13th episode of the Disney Plus's revival second season, Curved. Therein, seeking to solidify a win for their school debate team, Penny and her team perform a slam poetry number in support of their position. Black people should receive reparations from the United States government in order to apologize for once engaging in the practice of slavery. No, that's just you playing victim. Quote, this country was built on slavery, unquote, begins the group. Quote, which means slaves built this country, tilled this land from sea to sea to sea. Quote, first there was rice, tobacco, sugarcane, then in brackets, Eli Whitney did his thing, and cotton became king, unquote. They add, quote, and we were its soldiers, 4 million strong, fighting for America's freedoms, even though we remained America's slaves. And a lot of those slaves were actually freed after that, you know. So, quote, slaves built this country, unquote, the team proclaims. Quote, the descendants of slaves continue to build it. And we, the descendants of slaves in America, have earned reparations for their suffering. And no, you haven't. Because you're not slaves anymore. Okay? You're not slaves anymore. Stop thinking like you're slaves. You know, if you're gonna cry victim, you're gonna get treated like a victim. Let's see. And we, the descendants of slaves in America, have earned, as I said, no, you know, for their suffering and continue to earn reparations. Every moment we spend submerged in a systematic prejudice, racism, and white supremacy that America was founded with. Still, if you don't like it, then leave. If you don't, if America is that bad, why not just leave? Quote, slaves built this country, unquote, they repeat. Quote, not only field hands, but carpenters, masons, blacksmiths, musicians, inventors built cities from Jamestown to New Orleans to Bamacres, Washington, unquote. Quote, 40 acres and a mule, unquote. They then question, referring to General William Tecumseh Sherman's 1865 proclamation allotting free slaves plots of lands no bigger than the reference size of a loaned mule with which to till it. Quote, we'll take the 40 acres, keep the mule. Asserting, quote, we made your family rich, unquote, the team then bellows, quote, from southern plantation heirs to the northern bankers to the New England ship owners, former presidents, current senators, the Illuminati, the New World Order, unquote, the last two being played off as a joke. Quote, slaves built this country. Quote, we had Tubman, Turner, Frederick D. Douglass, unquote. Their argument continues. Quote, they say Lincoln freed the slaves. In brackets here, they say an incorrect assertion as slaves were actually freed within the United States by the 13th Amendment. Well, yeah, but who signed the amendment into law? Okay, or who helped? Um, okay, yeah. But slaves were men and women, and only we can free ourselves. See, basically, this is BLM propaganda, BLM and Antifa propaganda. That's what Loud and Proud has unfortunately become. They want BLM and Antifa want to turn America into an apartheid state, much like South Africa was for many years. I don't even think Martin Luther King Jr. would agree with that. So, at, but slaves were men and women, and only we can free ourselves. Well, that part's true. Stop playing the victim. Add the team. Quote, Jim Crow, segregation, redlining public schools, feeding private prisons with where we become slaves again. Well, if you wouldn't have to go to prison if you wouldn't commit crimes. Drawing their performance to a close, the team recaps, quote, as we celebrate Juneteenth for the umpteenth time, our account is still outstanding because this country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country, and we demand our 40 acres and a mule, unquote. Quote, you can keep the mule, they conclude. Quote, you can keep the 40. We're taking our freedom. Look at that. Look at all those scowls. You should not be seeing that in a kid's cartoon. Look at those scowls right there. You should not be seeing that in a kid's cartoon. Let's see if anybody else has anything to say about it. And again, feel free to comment or ask questions as we're going over this stuff. Um, Unsurprisingly, after being shared to social media, the in smaller quotes slaves built this country segment drew mixed, to say the least, reactions. Planting themselves firmly on the in smaller quotes critical side of the argument was Twitter user at @endwokeness, who, in sharing the clip, described its contents as quote blatant white anti-white propaganda unquote. And then there you see the conversely, the aforementioned voice actor who found himself in support of Disney's efforts, best known for providing the voices to an innumerable amount of memorable characters, including Cowboy Bebop's Spike Spiegel, Final Fantasy VI's Vincent Valentine, and numerous incarnations of Marvel's Wolverine, perhaps most notably that of his animated X-Men Evolution counterpart. Bloom replied to @endwokeness tweet with the declaration, quote, I'm white and a voice actor who will probably never work on this show for the most excellent of reasons. Your tweet is blatantly racist. No, I would say Louder and Prouder is racist. Quote, your anti-woke rhetoric is dangerous. No, Steve. Woke rhetoric is dangerous and divisive. He added, ultimately affirming, quote, I full-throatedly support Disney Plus at the Proud Family and all of my colleagues for doing this. Yeah, Hollywood, of course Hollywood's going to kiss BLM's rear end. Hollywood just loves to kiss the rear ends of BLM and Antifa and stir the pot and just totally take a dump on traditional America. So, as I said, um, this latest reboot of Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, is BLM and BLM Antifa propaganda. It is a sure sign that these people want apartheid in the United States, and we cannot let them succeed. HBO Max dud. Okay, so here's our next article. The last article we're going to go over tonight. We're at so we're coming right up on the hour here. Alrighty then. HBO Max dud Velma facing more backlash over insensitive sickle cell joke, and also as I mentioned earlier, it apparently is getting a second season. So, article by J.D. Augustine published earlier today. The lambasted HBO Max cartoon, Velma, is receiving harsh criticism again, and this time it goes beyond the average person or reviewer who found the show unwatchable and painfully unfunny. The series has been called out for insensitive humor about sickle cell disease, which they didn't wait long to deliver. The joke was uttered by Fred in the first episode. Encountering Velma for the first time, he can't remember her name. So Fred explains his problem is a disease like the mentioned illness of anemia. quote, I have a disease where I can't recognize people who aren't hot. Oh God, what dialogue. He says, quote, my doctor says it's basically sickle cell for rich people. Yuck. Okay. That was just an idiotic line right there. That was an idiotic line. Yeah, no wonder this show is trash. The writing sucks. Outright, the writing sucks. In response, Velma just plainly quips, quote, is it called rudeness? Hmm. Anyways, thought for a moment there my sister was calling me. That's why I paused there. Um, let's see. Before that, Velma, who's voiced by executive producer Mindy Kaling, reveals Fred cheats off her in Spanish class because he thinks she is Mexican. Fred's reply, delivered by Glenn Howerton, was, quote, it is, in bracket, rudeness. You're like smart. The writers thought this was funny, but no one is laughing or so much as giggling. Especially those sickle cell disease can affect. Yeah, I the only reason I giggled right there is just because of the utter stupidity of the writing here. This is just sheer idiocy. That's what I'm laughing at. These people really don't seem to have much of a brain, do they? Twitter user at MemeJ99 um, shared a recording of the scene and reacted in a thread, hashtag sickle cell. All right, okay. Quote, hashtag sickle cell isn't some punchline to put in an HBO Max show, at HBO Max show. We are discriminated against in healthcare, which causes further harm to our physical and mental. Ignorant jokes like this make it that much harder for systematic changes to occur for better treatment of sickle cell patients, unquote. She began. Yeah, it's again the whole thing is that this show was supposedly the target audience was the left woke crowd, and even they don't like it. Okay, so this show, there's a reason why this show is like the worst rated show on IMDb, or worst rated animated show on IMDb, and the third worst rated show overall on IMDb. It's idiot writing like this that we just saw is the reason. She then called out Kaling directly by adding, quote, at Mindy Kaling, what might have started out as a harmless joke turned out to show a lack of empathy, compassion for, or knowledge of um, hashtag sickle cell disease. It prevents others from learning what hashtag SCD truly is, a rare hashtag blood disorder affecting all races, predominantly African Americans, unquote. Others point out there is no relation between sickle cell and rudeness. Yeah, it's a blood disease. There, as I understand it, there's no aside from the suffering people. Aside from the suffering people endure from it, there's no there's no mental issues that come from it. Aside from just simply the mental anguish of the suffering that comes from sickle cell. Um, there's no like severe psychiatric or moodal disorders associated with it. That much I'm pretty sure of. Quote, this makes absolutely no sense, and to associate sickle cell with rudeness is extremely harmful, unquote, wrote Andre Marcel Harris, HBO Max's Twitter account. Quote, sickle cell patients are disproportionately impacted by racism and bias due to the majority of us in the U.S. being black, and this definitely isn't helping the issue, unquote. Harris notes a bit later, quote, incredibly unfunny, unquote, the joke is. Mm-hmm. Sickle Cell 101, a nonprofit devoted to awareness of the disease, paid attention to the controversy and entered the chat. The organization asked its social media followers if the moment was quote unquote offensive and a quote unquote bad joke. Hot take answers range from quote unquote terrible to quote unquote ridiculous to quote unquote not funny at all, and yes, quote very offensive unquote to people living with the disorder. YouTuber Atreus gave his analysis of the situation in a recent video, and he wasn't prepared for how obnoxiously tone deaf the dialogue in the scene was. After reading it from a Yahoo article, the podcaster was stunned into silence. Quote, you needed a moment of silence of how bad that joke was. Unquote. Yeah, I mean, I read it, and I'll tell you something. That's stupid writing. Had a stupid writing and stupid reasoning. Um, it's a very stupid joke. It's a very stupid, inappropriate, offensive joke. I think you'll have a lot of people agreeing on that. I wonder if before they wrote that, if whoever wrote that joke previously decided to stick his head into a full toilet or something. Yeah, you have to kind of wonder that. Hey, Tommy, welcome to the stream. We're on the last article we're covering tonight here about basically Velma. Apparently, there was a lot of issues over the um. I'm gonna need to step away for a quick moment here. I'll be right back, but while I'm gone, the article on that. All right, so with that, let's get back to the article here. We work to finish this off here. Let's see. Let's see. He said after a prolonged face palming, quote, I didn't even realize how gross, in brackets, it was, unquote. What's your reaction? Tell us below. Well, I think it's a universal response. After reading what the actual line was, that's idiocy. That's idiocy right there. So that's what I would say about that. So, oh, there we go. We're through the articles there. So, just I'll give some quick wrestling tidbits. Of course, this Saturday is going to be elimination pay per view. The main event is going to be Roman Reigns defending the the unified titles against Sami Zayn. You got two elimination chamber matchups going on, in which you will have in the one you'll have a number one contenders match for the women's title. Let's see, I do know Natalia is one of those. I should probably go ahead and take a look at who the others are. Let's see. Well, let's see. The two eliminate. The one is for the number one contenders match for the women's title, and then the other one is uh, um, Austin Theory will be defending the United. I think it's the United States title in that elimination chamber. So here's what we have for that. So the number one women's contendership match in the elimination chamber includes Natalia, Asuka, Nikki Cross, Carmella, Liv Morgan, and Raquel Rodriguez. Um, Austin Theory defends the United States title in a elimination chamber match against Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, who recently made his return to the WWE, Damian Priest, and Montel Ford. And then Judgment Day will also be in action as Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley take on Edge and Beth Phoenix in a mixed tag match. So that's what's going on in the WWE world, from what we know. I didn't really. There wasn't any. I think they did have a prediction video come out today, but other than that, WrestleMania didn't really come out with any, at least that I was able to see, as they came out after a certain point. Also, on tomorrow night's Dynamite, among them, I do know that. Let's see, I do know that Brian Cage will be taking on Jack Perry on that show. Look over and see what's going on Dynamite tomorrow night for AEW. Yeah, tomorrow night's um, Dynamite will feature. Let's see. In the main, I guess the main event is going to be a Texas Tornado tag team match. Now, for those of you who don't know, a Texas Tornado tag team match is basically when all four members of all four participants are in the ring at once. Basically, you don't. It's kind of funny. They call it a tag match, but it's not really a tag match. Basically, everybody's in all at the same time, and you just go after each other. But you have Claudio Castagnoli and John Moxley of the Blackpool Combat Club taking on Preston Vance and Roosh of La Facción Incondicionable. an 8-man tag team match, the Acclaimed teams of Billy Gunn and Orange Cassidy take on the team of Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Satman Singh, Sanjay Dutt. There's a 3-way women's match going on in which Ruby Soho takes on Toni Storm and Dr. Britt Baker. This is, of course, going into the whole story of the invaders of Toni Storm and Saraya, and the AEW originals of Dr. Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and the like. And then Ruby Soho being caught up in the middle as she's being recruited by Saraya and Toni Storm due to their past history in NXT when they were all in the WWE together. Mark Briscoe will be taking on Josh Woods. Adam Page takes on Kip Sabian. As we said earlier, Brian Cage will be taking on Jack Perry. So that's what's going on on Dynamite tomorrow night. All right, so with that, let's see. All right, so with that, let's see. Yeah, and one more piece of wrestling news. So on last week's Impact Wrestling, Father Jamie Mitchell made his full return to Impact Wrestling from NWA, bringing along with him former NWA World Women's Tag Team Champions, the Heck, Allison Kay, and Marty Bell. So they've been brought in to feud with the Death Bells, who are the current Knockouts Tag Team Champion, and to help bolster the women's tag division. You have some interesting heat in the women's Knockouts division, the Knockouts division as well, as Mickie James having just recently won her for the 5th time the Impact Wrestling Knockout Championship. She's got a match coming up with Masha Slamovich a week from Friday here on the 24th. She's also got Jordan Grace who's got Mickie in the crosshairs for her contractual rematch. Of course, Jordan Grace got the win over the debuting Steph DeLander this last week on Impact as well. So, with that, I think it's a good time to start to try to wind things down a bit here, as we got through all the wrestling news. Now it's just time to get to this day in each history, and we have only a couple of things tonight. And of course, I know today is Valentine's Day, so I hope those of you who have a girlfriend or a wife or what have you, or for the girls, husband, I hope you guys are having a great Valentine's Day. With that, so today being Tuesday, February the 14th, 2022, let's take a look back at this day in each history. And the first thing we want to do is I'd like to wish a happy birthday. As I'd like to wish a happy 75th birthday to Teller, the silent half of the comedy magic duo Penn and Teller. He turned 75 today. Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? Kind of hard to believe that those guys could be in their 70s already. But yeah, so Teller of Penn and Teller turned 75. So happy 75th birthday to Teller. Among his animated credits and cartoon credits include he guest starred. He guest starred in Fetch with Rough Ruffman in the episode "You Can't Teach an Orange Dog New Tricks." He voiced himself in a couple of Simpsons episodes as well as Futurama. So in the Simpsons episodes, "Hello Gutter," "Hello Fatter," and "The Great Simpsina," and then he also lent his voice to the Futurama episode "Into the Wild Green Yonder." And he also was in Scooby-Doo and Guess Who in the episode "The Cursed Cabinet of Professor Mads Markson." So happy 75th birthday to Teller of the comedy magic duo Penn and Teller. And 5 years ago today, on this date back in 2018, the 40th issue of the 5th volume of The Flash went on sale on this date back 5 years ago today. I believe this is volume 5, the 40th issue of volume 5 of Flash. It's part 2 of the Perfect Storm story arc, written by Joshua Williamson, with art by Carmine Di Giandomenico, lettering done by Steve Wands, and Ivan Placentia on the coloring. So 5 years ago today, The Flash issue 40 from volume 5 went on sale on this date 5 years ago today. So with that, guys, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Everybody got a kick out of some of the stories we read tonight. Was informed. Anyways, so I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow night for more Niche News. Also, don't forget this Friday I'll have Chris and Diane Tomolovich on as my co-host as we look back to comics history. We'll be finishing up our August 1939 coverage, going over comics that went on sale from Quality Comics, namely Feature Funnies Volume 1, Number 25, and Smash Comics Volume 1, Number 3, featuring the likes of The Clock, Invisible Hood, and Black X, and maybe even some others like Lollapalooza and Dixie Dugan. So with that, guys, I thank you all for being here. Anyways, with that, guys, I thank you all for being here. I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.